Hello and welcome to the Plate Spinning Academy podcast, hosted by me, Nick Davis, a productivity mentor and multi-passionate entrepreneur. I know what it feels like when you want to do all of the projects all at the same time, with never enough time and energy to do it all. I'm a passionate creative who's found my almost perfect blend of business and life that keeps my head motivated, my body energized, and my heart happy. I'll be talking about all things to do with organisation, rotas, goal setting, systems and structures, and strategies for business and life together, all combined with a healthy dose of accountability and motivation to help you on your journey. It's time for you to find your tailored recipe for accomplishment and contentment. Hello and welcome to today's episode. I want to have a chat about cheerleading and motivation in business and why it is so important, why we will all probably need it at some point along our life journeys, not just for business, and what sort of difference it makes when you do have people rooting for you and cheering for you and helping you along, as opposed to having nothing or nobody in your corner at all. Business is a long and tedious journey, and there are rarely overnight successes, regardless of what you might see on social media or the TV. And the overnight successes that you do see, I will guarantee you it has taken them years to get there, with all of the work that's done in the background that nobody sees. And that's something I've been doing lately. I've been very, very busy doing back of house duties that nobody has seen. And then how do we keep getting up and getting on with the work when we hit setback to setback? Think about when life has thrown you enough curveballs at you to think that it's a knockout, if you remember that, if you're old enough to remember anyway, where you're wearing a ridiculously large costume that's 10 feet taller than you are, with a big head on it, and you've got a dozen people throwing things at you to knock you off a tightrope into the water below. I certainly remember that from my childhood, and that's sometimes what business feels like for me. And actually, thinking about that, I've actually done It's a Knockout as a fundraising event. Bear with me because this does tie in with what I'm talking about today. It was a lot of fun and we worked in teams. And I'm almost certain it wouldn't have been as good if we were all just working on our own and just in it for ourselves. The team worked together and we had a really good laugh doing it as well. Thinking about another time when I did some teamwork. Many years ago, it was like a team bonding day for our volunteers where I used to live and work. And we did an assault course team bonding day, and it was at the local army barracks. And for the days that followed, I hurt in places I didn't even know I had. So we did the assault course in the morning, and in the afternoon we did a general knowledge quiz, and I can't remember whether we won or came second. We did quite well, but I can't quite remember. But whatever place we got to, I do remember the day, I remember the journey, and I remember the laughing and the aching and the ridiculousness of what we were doing. And also the fact that we all finished the assault course because we stopped and helped each other when we needed it. And we all needed different types of help. Some people needed help with climbing up a wall. Some people needed help with climbing underneath something. We had to work as a team, and we were cheering each other on, and we were motivating each other, and we all got round. And I know for a fact that if we were just all racing against each other, nobody would have finished the assault course at all. The teamwork definitely made the dream work on that day. It's a diamond of a saying, and it really does work. But when you're working for yourself, you're not necessarily working in a team unless you've got staff, unless you've got your outsourcing. But even when you're outsourcing, it's still your business, it's your baby. So what do you do about staying motivated? So getting back to the business side of things, we do often hit brick walls and blocks. I know I do, and I do it on a regular basis. And we think that we just need to know more. It's a knowledge gap or a skills gap, that we just need to do another course or another training, that we don't know enough of a particular problem and we need to pay a small fortune to be involved in a coaching program for a few weeks. And after that coaching program, we're going to have all the skills and knowledge that we need to move on. I'm sure of it. I'm sure we've all been there. Okay, so that sounds good until the next brick wall or block presents itself. And then we are back saying the same old thing, coming up with the same old excuses of not having enough knowledge or enough skills in order to move forward. We're back where we started. It's just it might be a slightly different block. So at what point does this cycle actually end? And how many people are profiting from our feelings of imposter syndrome? And is more knowledge the answer? You do need to have some knowledge of what you're doing, and please know that there is always more to learn. I am a lifelong learner and I am always learning something new. And you're going to have to draw a line under the spending money on another course and at some point actually start doing the work. So how do you transition from that, coming out of that learning loop where you've paid for that and actually implementing and doing? So how do we implement? Are we procrastinating? I think a lot of us have been so guilty for doing that, and I'm the first one to admit I have done it. Absolutely. I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned, but I've also recognized that I have got stuck in this procrastinating loop, and I've managed, thankfully now, to pull myself out of it. But I think that more often than not, it's not a knowledge problem, it's a task execution problem. I mean, what if we are sat in procrastination mode? We're completely demotivated, we're wondering why we're bothering, and you know what you need to do. You have the knowledge, but you simply do not have the motivation or direction to do it. And you don't know why things aren't moving. You maybe have knowledge fatigue that sets in, and you start to think that it's you, that you are just not cut out for business, that you're the problem. Everybody else is managing, and you always find it hard. And that is a cycle that a lot of us can also find ourselves in. Have a think about what some of the times in your life have been where you have been really spurred on to continue on whatever journey it is that you're on at that point. Think about why people employ a personal trainer to motivate them, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning for some circuit training or whatever else you've decided that you need. I'll be honest, I don't think even a personal trainer would have me out of the door at 6 a.m. for circuit training right now. But who knows, in the future, that may just be a possibility, and I may just find the motivation to do something like that. I was thinking about the egg and spoon race at school, at primary school. I won that, actually. I do remember. I was very proud that I won it. So think about your egg and spoon. You gain momentum. You stay focused on keeping that egg on the spoon. I'm guessing probably with your tongue sticking out because you're concentrating so hard to keep the egg on the spoon. You can hear the cheering and the support from the sidelines, and that is what is helping you get over the finish line. Or maybe you're the one that's cheering your kids on because you know that the louder that you shout, the faster they are able to run because they know that you are there for them. They know you are watching. They know you will celebrate them if they win and that you'll celebrate with them even if they don't. And even if they come last, you've got them regardless, and they know it, and it makes all the difference between them even starting the race to completing the race. Thinking about running a marathon, the London Marathon on the TV, it's 26 miles, there's thousands and thousands of runners and there's thousands of spectators. Okay, imagine running a marathon completely on your own. There's nobody else running it with you. You are the only participant. And there's no crowd on the sidelines either cheering you on. How would you stay motivated to see through the 26 miles? How would you reach the finish line? What would happen when you hit the infamous wall that long distance runners talk about? Now, imagine that race is you building your business. You've set yourself goals, but you cannot see the finish line because it's so far away. And you don't know how far you have to go because there's no checkpoints to tell you. There's no mile markers. There's no crowds letting you know where you're up to and how well you're doing. Where I live in Preston, we have what's called the Guild Wheel, and it's a 21-mile circular pathway that goes around the city and some of the suburbs. It was, I can't remember what year. It's not, I think it's about 15 years old. The start point, as in the 0 or 21-mile marker, is in Avonham Park in Preston, which isn't too far away from me. So whichever way you go around the path, whether that's clockwise or anti-clockwise, and believe me, having walked around both at clockwise and anti-clockwise, always go clockwise because there's the hill of doom that you would have to walk up, and it's virtually impossible. Anyway, I'm digressing there. So what I'm saying is, whichever way you walk, there is a marker for every single mile of the circuit. So having walked it twice, I have relied heavily on the mile markers to check in with and to measure progress and to stay motivated, and not only to see how far we have walked, but also how far it is to go. So regular checkpoints at the same point each time, 21 of them. And I was able to do it. I never thought I'd be able to walk 21 miles in a day, but I managed it. So there's no way that I would have been able to have walked 21 miles otherwise, you see. Especially as it's a circular route, it's not actually taking you anywhere. It's not like the destination is a specific place that you're trying to get to. Your destination is right back where you started. So your motivation to do this walk is a tricky one. You know, we were, my friend and I were doing it, and we were both training for longer distance events, and they were fundraisers. So she was training for a 26-mile marathon walk, and I was training for the Keswick to Barrow 40-miler. And I was doing that on my birthday, and I think it was 2013. So I attempted it. And I got as far as 17 miles before bailing. The rain was running sideways, I have to say. But here's the difference. I was also walking on my own. And the checkpoints where you had to scan the race fob, I personally thought that they were too far apart. There were very few people watching, and the other participants weren't really interested in motivating each other unless they already knew each other. And this was a very interesting exercise for me. And thinking about putting this podcast together, I realised actually I learned more on that day than I realised. I took away from it a lot more than just blisters and aching muscles. And I realised that to undertake such a huge achievement, and I think we can all agree that a 40-mile walk is a massive achievement in one day, it was so much harder to do on your own and without support. You had to enter as a team. You weren't allowed to enter as an individual. So a few of us kind of got together, and I knew a couple of them, but I didn't know most of them. So we kind of cobbled a team together, and we were all like wanting to do the walk, but it was a case of, well, you have to have a team of 10. So that was the only way you could enter. So fair enough, we did that. And I now know why it was a team event. It's because you were all there to look out for each other, to motivate each other, and to keep your spirits high when the others were struggling, because it was a tough walk. It was through the Lake District, so you can imagine there's hills up and down, there's some rough terrain here and there, and then obviously our inclement weather in the northwest also put paid to my I got, like I said, I got to 17 miles, and I eventually had to bail because I just couldn't carry on anymore. So the group that I was in did none of this motivating, none of this cheerleading. Nobody was looking out for anybody else. So I was pretty much walking on my own. Most of the other groups also had support vehicles along the way. And one of the stretches that I walked along had a number of caravans and camper vans and large estate cars waiting. And as I walked past some of them, I could see boots open with spare socks and boots ready for the walkers. There was flasks ready for the hot drinks, and some of the camper vans and caravans were cooking bacon butties for the team members to arrive. And I had to walk through all of this. The smell was like, oh, just do a bacon butty now. And knowing full well that we had nothing like this organised whatsoever, it was really demotivating. I mean, I was already demotivated because my so-called team members were nowhere to be seen, and it was a pretty selfish group, to be honest. And I'm not going to get involved in anything like that again unless I know the people and I know that they're going to have my back and I'll have theirs too. Yeah, it was really disappointing. And then to see the other teams as well fully prepped with support along the way was just an extra kick in the teeth for what was already a difficult challenge and a difficult day. This is just a few examples, and it's all kind of walking and exercise, isn't it? And if you know me well at the moment, I don't do very much of that right now. But it got me thinking, where are our cheerleaders in business? How do we build a framework that's going to motivate us, that's going to make sure that we are crossing that finish line, or that even if we don't cross that finish line, that we are still celebrated. We're not going to give up because we've got people doing their own thing. Okay, so if you think about, we're all in business together. And I say that with confidence. We are all in business together. We're not running businesses together, but we are in business together. And there is no such thing as a competition. So if I refer to this as a race, what I mean is it's not a race with each other. It's our own race. And we are running this race alongside others who are running their own race. So we're all running our own businesses. And sometimes we stop to help others who've fallen. And sometimes they stop to help us. It's just part of what I find just a fantastic, beautiful thing that has developed through my online business communities. And one of the things that I feel is lacking a little bit is this dedicated support with accountability and motivation and cheerleading in mind. Now, about 18 months ago, I developed the Accountability Club. It was all about supporting business owners, doing weekly check-ins, doing co-working, and keeping in touch with people on a regular basis, purely to make sure that they were putting realistic goals in place and that I was facilitating a co-working space where they could focus on work and just making sure that they're getting over the finish line. And if there's any hurdles, we can help them. So, yeah, had a few sign up and my health decided to decline after about 3 to 4 weeks, to the point where I couldn't even think straight. The brain fog had kicked in big time then. My iron levels had fallen yet again. Yes, this is an ongoing issue, and yes, it is being investigated. And at the moment I'm okay, but it's looking likely I'm probably going to have to take iron supplements probably for the rest of my life. But anyway, that's another story. And more recently I've felt more and more confident to bring the Accountability Club back, so that's what I have done. And here we are. We're approaching Q2 now, and the framework that I've built is around working with the quarters. So I'm here for it. If you're here for it, I'm here for it. Let me know. And we're starting on the 31st of March, and I'm just running it with a few people at first. So if you want to get in on this, please let me know. There will be links in the show notes. And if you've got any questions, just ping me on socials for it. I work better when I know that I've got people to check in with, that I've got people cheerleading me, that I've got people motivating me, and I want to do the same for others, because I have seen, like I said, that the stories I've given you, the Guild Wheel had regular milestones, not only to see how far you had gone, but also to see how far you had to go. The Keswick to Barrow walk didn't have enough checkpoints, didn't have support. When we look at it like that and then transpose those kind of frameworks into our business, surely running a business is the same as running a marathon or walking 40 miles. It's running a race, and the finish line is whatever goal you have set, whether that's your big, scary goal or whether it's just the next milestone that you've set for yourself. So if this is something you're interested in, I would love to hear from you. I'm really excited about it. I'm looking forward to getting it going. I am running it at a beta price. I need experience and I need skills in running a membership, and this is what Q2 for 2025 is going to be all about for me. So come and jump on board. I can't promise that I will get it right first time, but if you can help me bring this together, we can build it. We can make sure that everybody is doing what they set out to do. And there's also there's no judgment either. If we're not hitting our goals, we look at why. We don't judge. We're just looking at, okay, on a very practical level, right, you didn't hit that goal this week. That's absolutely fine. Can you identify why you didn't? And is there anything you can do for next week to make sure that you're going to hit your goal next time? Let me know if that sounds good. I'll speak to you all soon. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Come and find me on socials. I've got a couple of free groups you can find on my profile that you are welcome to join. I'd love to hear more about what you'd like me to talk about on the podcast, and I would welcome your ideas for future episodes.